Welcome back to my boxing channel. Today, we're going to jump right into it and learn the basics of boxing. We're going to learn defense, punch technique, distance, levels, pivots, and a dip. Let's get to it. First step is defense with your hands. You see boxers doing this and looking like they're doing all kind of stuff like this? Yeah, I did it too when I was fighting. There is a reason to all that madness. You want to practice catching punches. So when you're in your boxing gloves, your hands are not tight, they are relaxed. When you parry a punch, it's called a parry. I'm going to meet them with my hand. And when I meet them with my hand, I'm not going out away from my face because that leaves me open to getting hit in the face. So I'm just going to turn my hand and catch it. So from the side, it looks like this. Okay, it's going to come to you really quick. So you don't want to lean back if your goal is to hit them back. This is one of my specialty punches, which is catch and throw. As a southpaw, the orthodox fighter's jab is on the same side as mine. So I'm going to catch it. And as I do that, I'm going to throw my jab out. So in fast speed, it looks like catch, throw. Catch, throw. It's all in one motion. Now that I know that I can defend that and I knock this down, they're not expecting the jab, I automatically know that my cross is going to land, okay? And then I need to get the hell out the way. It's catch and then punch. You can practice this on your own without anybody like I'm doing right now. So I'm just catching, punching, catching, punching, catching, punching. Notice my hand is not going way out here, because if you go out here, your hand is going to have to come down because gravity is going to pull it down. And now this whole side of your body is open. So I'm going to catch, throw, catch, throw, catch, throw. Okay. From the other side, it's here. I'm using my lat to catch it, catch it, catch it, throw, catch, throw, catch, throw, catch, throw. That's one. The second thing you can do with your hands is actually it's with your elbows. Is catch it with your elbows on the side. So I'm not just going side to side like this. That's not helping anything because I'm still square and all of this is open. So I'm going to catch. Notice how my hand is still by my side. I'm still in my boxing stance. And then if I want to catch the other way, I'm going to catch. Now from this position, I can throw any punch. I can throw a jab. I can stay here and go uppercut. I can go a hook, or I can go a hook. The key to defense is not letting yourself get out of responding position. So you always want to be able to respond. So if I catch, throw my jab cross, catch, catch, uppercut, hook. Those are combinations that I like to throw. So I'm going to catch it and throw. Parry, you can call it a parry or catch. Either one that comes to mind. So parry or catch, and then throw. Whichever one you want to do. And then I'm going to turn and turn. Those are two of my main defenses when I was fighting. There are thousands of different angles that you can throw a jab, right? At the end of my jab, I want to make sure that I'm extending my arm all the way. Watch, okay? So most people, when they throw their jab, it's just here. Watch how much longer my arm gets. All I did was extend my arm. I'm not reaching. This is regular. This is extended. Now my knees are still bent. I just added about 3 to 4 inches on my punch. This is why folks always said I have long arms in boxing when really my arms are just average. Is because I practice extending. I don't even have to open up myself to do that. I'm just extending my arm. This is where mobility comes in handy. If you have tight lats or tight chest muscles, you're not going to be able to get that full extension every time. That extended jab is what is going to save you in a lot of instances. The second punch, I do the same thing with my cross. Most people stop their cross here. But if I extend my arm and turn my hips all the way, then I'm getting the most power out of it, especially if you catch them at the end of your punch. So I'm going to go here, all the way extended. Notice how my weight is balanced. I'm not leaning forward or back. If you can master these two skills, making sure you get extended every time, man, you're going to be a tough son of a gun to deal with. Yeah, just like me. No, I'm just kidding. Not really. Moving on, we are going to go into distance. I'm going to use my bag as an example. If you lose my feet, that's totally fine because we're trying to make sure that you get the distance from the bag. When you hear a commentator, when you're watching a boxing match, say distance, what they're talking about is arm distance, okay? I'm short for my weight. I fought at 112, 119, and 125. I'm short for all of those weight classes. I'm only 5 feet tall. So the thing that worked for me was making sure that I always knew my distance. And if you box long enough, you can eyeball it and tell how far you are away from your opponent. Now, there's two different distances. There's your distance and the distance your opponent has. Majority of the time, the overwhelming majority of the time, my opponent had longer arms. So it wouldn't behoove me just to walk in. That's where the parry and the extended punch comes in. And you can find that video on my channel as well. After I parry and extend it all the way, now you see I can push through the punch. I have more space to go. I'm going to jab and go through the bag. I step with that. Boom. That's how you know your distance. You see folks always doing this. That means that they're gauging their distance. Now, you can't hold it out there. That's illegal. But what you can do is say here. See how there's about 6 inches between me and the bag? Now I know that I only need that little bit. And because we know that when you throw your cross, it goes further than your jab, I know that I can land my cross. As I see them take the slightest step in with that jab, I'm going to parry it, boom, and hit them with the cross. That was my most famous punch. I'm going to wait till I see them coming in, going to parry it, pop, pop, and extend my arm all the way through. You have to extend all the way through. That is what the distance is for. Because if you don't, you're going to catch short, and then you're not going to run them into it. So the goal with this is to run them into your punch. And the way that you judge the distance is throwing that jab. Now I know because I'm 6 inches away, I may be at the end of their range because my arm is shorter, right? I'm going to make sure that I'm keeping my head off that center line when I'm throwing that soft jab. And when I get ready to throw that hard jab, I can move mountains with it because I know it's going to land because I now know their distance and my distance. That is the key to learning distance. The next thing we're going to talk about is levels. There are, again, a million different levels that you can hit. However, when you change levels, the most important thing is to keep your balance. You're always going to hear me talk about balance because that is crucial to you staying in correct fighting position. So when I bend my knees, I'm balanced, right? That's one level. I can go all the way down to here. However, you have to have incredibly strong legs to do this throughout a fight. You gotta make sure that your legs are strong. That's why a lot of squats come in handy. When you're doing your levels, I'm punching at different levels, but I'm also staying balanced. I'm getting my head off the center line. Doesn't matter what punch I throw, I'm getting my head off the center line, okay? The only time my head doesn't really move off the center line is when I'm parrying and throwing the jab, okay? Any other time, my head is off the center line, off the center line. So you see when I step forward like that, I'm going off the center line, but my weight is still balanced. So you step out, boom, come back in, right back to your stance every single time, guys. Every single time you got to come back to your stance. Boom, back up. Boom, back up. Boom, back up. Now, if I want to throw an overhand, which for me, because I'm a southpaw, is going to be my left. With that overhand, it's going to come over. It's going to start off just like a cross. It's going to start off just like a cross. But when I throw it, I'm coming over and down. I'm coming over. You see how I'm over to the side? My weight is still balanced because if I need to move back, I can move back. When you practice this, the first thing you want to make sure is that you get your head off the line and you stay balanced. Head off the line and stay balanced. It's not even really important where the punch ends up as when you're learning the punch, as that you stay on balance and get your head off the center line. Getting your head off the center line allows you to have confidence knowing that you're not about to just get hit straight in between the eyes. So if I'm off the center line, I know you can't respond because I can just move out of the way. Okay. The next exercise is dip and pull. Now, we just talked about how to get different levels. Okay. Now, a pull is just leaning back. One of the things that I made the biggest mistake doing when I pulled is I held my breath. So when I came back, I was tired if I did that 3 or 4 times in a fight, because you never, ever, ever want to hold your breath. You always want to be breathing, because not breathing shoots your heart rate through the ceiling and then you get fatigued. I'm going to dip and lean. Okay. That is one of the things I do in place of the catch or the parry and jab. You see the punch coming, you lean, my left shoulder is back, and then I throw a cross. So you can lean, it's called a pull. So pull, pop. You see a lot of fighters do this. However, if you are a beginner, it's still a good tool to have in your bag. Just please make sure you have your balance under control, because a lot of times people will pull and then they have to step backwards. Or they pull because they're off balance and you're tired, they might lean forward. So you want to pull, come back with a punch, pull, and move out the way. Those are one of the 2 things. So when you pull, it's just a lean back. Okay, your core has to be strong in order to be able to do this through the whole entire fight, as well as your legs, because you want to be able to come back up, pull, back up, pull, back up. A common mistake is that folks pull, then square up. That's going to get you, and if you do that 2 or 3 times, your opponent's going to catch it and bust you right in the face. You want to be able to pull, back up, going to the side, pull, back up, pull, back up. My favorite thing to do after a pull is pull, step with my cross. That, oh my gosh, that used to get me so hyped when I used to land that, because they're easily throwing a jab, because they're used to me about to parry it and throw a jab afterwards, or they're throwing a cross and I pull and my cross comes right over theirs and I'm sending in through it. Now, sometimes with that, you might not be able to extend. So be aware that you might have to throw a short cross as well. Just make sure you take your shoulders and your hips with you and you don't end up doing that. Take your shoulders and your hips and your feet with you. Pull, cross. Pull, cross. Okay? One of my favorite punches as well. I know I said I got a lot. I do. I just love boxing. The last trick, combo, whatever you want to call it, we're going to do is pivots. Pivots save my life because I go in one way and come out another. That's usually what people know me for besides my cross. I go in one way and come out another. So if I come in with the jab this way, you best believe I'm going right or left afterwards because I'm not staying still. Okay? So when you throw that pivot, especially for southpaw, if I'm throwing a jab, let's say I throw 2 jabs, I'm going to roll under it. Or I might pivot out of it. Okay? So one of the most things that I do is pivot. I love me a good right check hook, which is pivot. How you do a pivot is you're always going to keep your knees bent. Remember the first 2 rules. Protect yourself at all times. Keep your knees bent. When I pivot, I'm going to slightly dip and then turn. I always pivot on my front foot. I'm never going to pivot on my back foot unless you switch up with your stance. Most people don't, but we're not going to cover it in this video. We'll cover it in another one. Always make sure that you do these 2 things when you pivot. Bend, and when you pivot, end up right back into your stance. If you don't end up back in your stance, your opponent is going to see that and hit you. And it doesn't even have to be a hard hit. It'll be a flash knockdown because you're off balance. And it's so much easier to knock somebody down when they're off balance. A lot of fighters will try to catch you while you're pivoting. That's exactly why I throw my check hook. Because if you're coming in, and again, an orthodox fighter will have their jab hand on the same side. I can still also parry that and pivot and throw a hook off of that. I can parry it, hook, with that pivot. So those are the basics of defense to offense with boxing. The basics of boxing. We covered defense with your hands, punch technique, distance, levels, pivots, and a dip in the pool. All those things are things that you need to master if you're trying to become an advanced boxer or if you just want to look good doing stuff. All right? Thank you for checking out my channel. My name is Taversha. Please like and subscribe. Share with your friends. Yes, I am a Black woman that's teaching everybody how to box. Hello.